Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. This is the Humanalytics Podcast. I'm Vic Akosile. How's everyone doing? I am here today with somebody I've gotten to know very well. Super cool guy, Loïc Michel from 365. Loïc, how are you, good sir?
Very good. Thanks
Very,
for the show.
sure, no problem, no problem. Loïc is a co-founder of a really cool company called 365 Talents, and we'll get to that here shortly. But I do want to share like a little bit about today's topic, and I think this is why I wanted Loïc on the show because he has a really cool perspective on this topic, and it really centers around effective skill mapping. And like what does that even involve? I know, if you're a HR leader out there, skill mapping is something that, you've probably heard of, you've probably done. But on today's show, like we're going to be looking at it from a very specific angle, which is how effective skill mapping drives strategic workforce planning while you're probably doing it wrong, right? I think, Loïc, in our prior conversations, we talked a lot about, there's right ways to do it, there's wrong ways like to do it, but there's also like a way that works best for you. So we're really excited to talk about this topic here, like with you. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Pleasure.
Okay, so just so that folks kind of have a understanding of like the awesomeness that is Loïc, let's get like to know you. Tell us, who is Loïc? Tell us about your background or where you're located, because for some folks who are watching that may be new, and just anything like about like yourself to kind of share like your background and story here.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'm currently in France, in Lyon, to be more precise, in a very sunny afternoon in Lyon currently, and I am in the office, which is kind of something that we can share nowadays because of the situation. So today I'm in the office, and actually we've got two different offices in France, and we are currently expanding abroad. And I am the co-founder and CEO at 365 Talents that we created a few years ago with my two co-founders, Paul and Matthew. And we are in the talent experience space with a very deep interest in skills and skills intelligence, but I'm sure we'll have more time to talk about it. And I am a father of two. I am married, and I'm very involved in the company, growing the company, working on the vision, scaling the company, and it's the scale mode now. So we talk about that later on for sure. So
yeah, I know that's lots of challenges, but also very exciting. I've been talking to a lot of tech startup founders, and it's like, like there's a lot of things going on at once, and you're just like, I'm trying to drive this thing, but it's also, like a joy as you're doing it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So awesome. So did you grow up in France or, grew up somewhere else?
Yeah, actually, I grew up in France. I studied in Australia for a small time. Then I worked for 2 years in Canada, in Montreal.
Okay.
And then I moved back to France, worked in Paris in consulting for a few years. And then I had an idea. And there we go. 365 Talents was born.
Well, I'd be curious to kind of hear the story about that, right? Like, what were the conditions? What space was Loïc in that led to the formation of 365, Talents? It's not every day that, again, folks wake up and say, I'm going to start a company, right? But why was starting a company such a big thing for you then, and just made sense,
Yeah. First of all, I had the idea, even when I was an engineer in my engineering school, to launch a business, to try new stuff. And so I think I wanted to, not to be in one particular path, but to have various opportunities and to imagine different paths for my career. And entrepreneurship was one of them. I tried different things, some, friends, projects, side projects, while I was in Montreal, and then back in France as a consultant. I had different projects, and I worked on different topics around HR mostly. And then I was in particular responsible for dealing with planning and skills management within my consulting company. And after a few years as a consultant and a project manager, I was kind of bored or even pieced by a particular aspect, which was how is it possible that in a talent-first company like any consulting company, how was it possible that skills management was so badly managed and done, and it was all Excel sheets and a few interviews to know what the consultants were capable of doing, what they wanted to do, and how they could evolve, and how to match these consultant and profiles with the customers' engagements. And I really thought that was not working. And if skills management and staffing was not working well, usually that has an impact on the employees and the consultants, and usually the engagement was not very good also. And I was myself part of the human capital, and I like to say that when I am asked about HR, why did I work in HR? I usually say, okay, I don't have an HR background, but I was part of the human capital as an employee. So I felt some things, and I wanted to change things, and that's when I decided to work on a particular technology and business, to be able to leverage all the available data in the company, and to make it clear, to make it sound, and to make it understandable by all the different counterparts in the company, so that basically you leverage the information you have on skills, and you match demand of skills and offer of skills in real time, and then you tackle all your business challenges in a very faster way. So that was the origin of it.
Yeah. And, I love that because, I too come from a management consulting background, and I think we've talked about that, but I think it's the quintessential place where you say, if your people are direct drivers of revenue, not in like direct, for example, software development could be an in like direct driver, because, like the people aren't necessarily bringing in revenue all the time, besides like the sales functions. But it does strike me that the human capital practices and technologies and platforms aren't at their optimized state, especially in an industry that relies so heavily on people. And I love this focus on skill mapping, and let's just dive into that. Like for those who may not know the breadth or have a good understanding of what skill mapping is, can you help us understand what skill mapping is, what it's used for, and probably, as you hinted at earlier, why many organizations may find it difficult or challenging to do?
Maybe before talking about the mapping itself, which is a way to tackle another challenge. It's the mean, it's the way, it's the solution. But what's the challenge?
Yes.
I like just to take one step back and talk about the two, I would say, hottest topic in any HR professional mind today: skills gaps and war for talent. It's the two major things. I think if you type in Google skills gaps, it's 3.7 million results
show up.
And it's twice the number of results for war for talent.
Oh wow!
Which is kind of weird when you say, but actually we can talk about the two of them. But so skills gaps, what it is, everyone is saying, okay, it's being unable to predict the skills of tomorrow, and unable to align the skills of today with the needs of tomorrow. So it's these figures around. We've got 85% of jobs in 2030 that do not exist today. And so it's very futuristic, and everyone is thinking about this skills gap of the future. But actually, I like to say it's good to have this skills gap in mind, but there is another one. It's the current skills gap today. Are you able to even match your offer and demand of skills in real time, or you don't even know where to start? And that's when you move to the war for talent, because if you want to win the war for talent, you need to win battles. And you have the external battle of attraction, talent acquisition, employee branding, and it's very fierce and bloody, and it's very complicated. And we are all talking about great resignation, and the job market is very employee centric. It's not more on the employer's end. But it's a very complicated battle. So there's another one. It's the internal battle, the battle of your people engagement, your people development. And I like to say, if you want to win the war, you have to choose your battle. And I would choose the internal one first. I like to talk about Sun Tzu, the war master in China, like a few centuries ago. And this guy was saying that if you want to win battles, yet all the battles, you better know yourself. So you have to know yourself. So if you want to win the internal battle, you get to know yourself. So you get to know your skills, because that's your weapons. That's your human capital for today and for tomorrow. And that being said, when you look at all the different surveys from Deloitte, EY, or even LinkedIn on what's the skills shortage today, or do HR leaders know their workforce today or not? There is this figure of actually there is only 10% of CHRO in large enterprises who know in real time the capabilities and the skills of their workforce. So it's only 10%. It's like an iceberg.
Only 10.
Yeah, it's only 10.
That's
disturbing. It's disturbing, but it's very easy to explain. This 10% usually is the 10% you have in your HRIS system, like in your HR system, or it's the 10% of your top talent, top performer talent in the company. You focus on them because you don't have access to the information on all the others.
And it's easier sometimes.
And it's easier.
I've been there too. It's a little easier to focus on maybe 200 people than maybe 2,000 people, right?
Exactly. So that's the 10% rule. But it doesn't work anymore. If you want to win the war for talent, you have to win the battle of the internal engagement. And engaging talent is not just engaging you 10%, it's engaging 100%. And that's where you have to know yourself. So you have to map your skills. You have to understand what are your current capabilities, even if they are coming from different backgrounds, different geographies, from different businesses, from different people talking in different languages. You have to structure this information and to make it clear. And that's skills mapping.
Yeah, no, like it's cool, like you're bringing in Sun Tzu here, like a little bit of that, like philosophy. But I think what was really resonating with me, Loïc, is that, this war like for talent, great resignation, right? The mindset of like, there are two perspectives and two paradigms to look at that. There's a war for talent within and a war for talent, out there, right? And a lot of times there's a heavy focus or maybe even investment into bringing in talent, while, according to Sun Tzu here, start from within, know thyself, is the way to go. So really kind of understanding that and harnessing that power is another perspective that I think also in my opinion may produce some better results. But let's see, let's explore, what's this relationship between skills mapping and strategic workforce planning, and I guess how has perhaps maybe COVID redirected senior leaders to maybe put an emphasis more on this skills mapping and strategic workforce planning just in general?
as we said, skills mapping is the first step of any strategic decision process you would like to make on your workforce. Because if you don't know where you start from, it will be very complicated to design the target and the trajectory. So once any company has identified and mapped all its living and existing skills and capabilities, then you know where you start, and the company knows where it starts, and you can predict, or you can design, and you can imagine the future, and then see how to fill the gap if you see some gaps between your current mapping and the mapping you would like to have in, let's say, 2, 3, 5, or 10 years. I like to say 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10, because that answer to your second question about COVID. There was a lot of, before COVID, there was a lot of surveys and benchmarks and mostly provided by consulting companies, talking about the trends and the transformation of the workforce in 2030. And we mentioned this 85% of jobs that don't exist So that's exactly this. So it was easy to say, okay, in 10 years from now, you don't take that much risk. You just say it's going to be different. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Wow. Amazing.
And actually, then COVID came. And 10 years from now was not in the movie. That was not in the picture. It was not 10 years. It was at the beginning. It was 10 days. What happened to us? How should we react? The world tomorrow, and tomorrow is in 10 days, is not the same as today. So actually, it was more operational than strategic, but it brought some agility, and that was the fact that was and the corporate capability that any large enterprise or any enterprise was looking after is how to adapt to this new way of doing business, this new ecosystem, and actually the same problem as in 10 years, but it's let's say 10 months.
Yes.
And it requires even more agility and even more real-time information and insights. So you cannot ask a consulting company to make some prediction for you and see where it goes. You have to work probably hand in hand with such consultancy company, because they bring some value and material and way of thinking, but you need to have your internal capability, also your digital systems to do so. So I think COVID just reduced the time frame. It make it closer.
I definitely see and hear from other leaders I speak to about how COVID felt like you took what was supposed to happen in 10 years and condensed that transformation into 10 months, right? A lot of things that I think many talent leaders, saw was on the horizon, knew that there needed to be more strategic effort and operational effort into changing certain kind of things to prepare for that. All of a sudden that came to the forefront, and now it's the highest priority, because it really, for a lot of companies, and if your company survived or not, was how well you handled the human capital aspect of your business, right? So
exactly,
completely agree. So I see how skills mapping in itself helps you to to your earlier point, understand thyself internally first to enable that really strategic workforce planning about how are we going to look like, where are we going to grow, and where do we need to grow. And as somebody who has probably done skills mapping before, but probably struggled because of the the challenges that it brings. I'm curious to hear a few of the obstacles that people may run into. It sounds like in your past you ran into as well, trying to do skills mapping at this level and scale, and perhaps help us understand what tools for data gathering and organizing all these skills, because that's really like the challenging part, are available now versus like something like 10 years ago. Because I remember doing it 10 years ago and I had like 20 spreadsheets of like, data, and I would hate the, maybe it's the annual review time when I had to do it. But help us understand a few of those challenges and what tools are available now versus maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, I would say it's not centralized, so it's complicated for that. That's the good scenario. You have data, but it's not centralized. In some cases, you don't have the data, and it cannot be centralized at all. And it's just the spreadsheets that you are describing, like everyone in his business unit, in his country. So every engineer in a company or every manager in a company is having its own skills framework on a few spreadsheets with 5 core competencies and 10, I would say, business skills related. And that's the way it works for his business.
That's exactly how I used to do
it. That's cool. That's 101 skills mapping, and it works in your small environment.
Correct.
But then you have another one in another region or in another business unit or even on another floor in the building, and they are having another way to do it. So then you had the technology of digital talent management technology that wanted to structure all this information and to centralize this information. That's at the beginning, that's a good idea. So you centralize all the information, but because everyone is not very comfortable with it, you have to normalize it. So you normalize and you structure and you engineer the whole vocabulary around skills. And as we said, it's very complicated. So basically, you will focus only on 10% of it. Just say, okay, we have 5 corporate skills, leadership skills, agility skills, like soft skills that resonates at a high level in the company. And we base all our, top management development plan on these. And we have some business skills per business line. So for marketing, we have 10 business skills. For finance, we have 10 finance skills. For engineering, we have 10 engineering skills. So that's fine. But actually, when you centralize, you forget all the discrepancies and all the different variations that were at the beginning of the process. So in the end, it doesn't work for the business itself. So it's good from an HR standpoint because you kind of understand, but it's not related to the business. So it was a good first step, but not sufficient. That's why today you can leverage new technology, AI in particular, where you can connect different sources of data, different ways of expressing the same skills, and make it normalized and make it work, even if it's not expressed in the same language, in the same way, coming from the same data source. And we at 365 Talents have this skills intelligence engine that connect to HR systems like the talent management suites, the HIS, the performance management suite where you have interviews and these very structured skills frameworks. But it connects also to business tools where the people are actually doing their task and expressing their capabilities. So the knowledge management platform, the project management platform, the staffing platform, the internal social network. You have a lot of skills data here, and it's very interesting to get access to this data. And finally, the platform helps you crowdsource skills information from your employees or from your managers and from your HR in a spontaneous way. And when you do that, and to do that, you need this AI that will make it simple for you to, to engage and to fill in some information, and don't mess with the complexity of it in terms of user experience. The tech will deal with it, and that's when you collect all these different data sources, you crowdsource the data, and you have a very rich and complete skills understanding. And then opens a lot of doors.
That is far beyond what I remember skills mapping felt like from my day, right? It definitely felt like a top-down approach, where some powers that be said, "All right, these are the competencies, these are the skills. This is just it," right?
Yeah.
Where it sounds like there are a lot of platforms of technology, 365 Talents being, like one of them, that can do it from the ground up, so that you have a more broader and deeper perspective into the skills that your organizations have.
Exactly.
Is that okay?
Yeah, and maybe just to add on this, you might think that having a broader skills framework or ontology is better, but you said it has to be broader and deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And on the in the market, and particularly talent management giants used to to aggregate all the data from their customers that they could collect, and to try to make something that was like the ultimate skills ontology,
Skills map.
Exactly, the ultimate skills map, and
Yes.
that you should fit into, or that should fit into your business or your company. We don't believe in this approach, so that's why we think it has to be more it's still skill technology, but it has to be more adaptable to your own business and your own culture and your own way of doing it. So you need a skill studio to to organize this information and to make it clear and sound for your organization, not for your vertical or your market organization, because you are not like your competitor.
Yeah, that's true. And I think like you bring up a good point here, Loïc, because if I'm like the CEO or the CHR or people leader, and I understand the value of investing the time and energy and resources into creating the skills map and getting that data, but it just feels really daunting, right? Like, and as somebody who does it, it can feel really daunting. I'm curious if there's an easy button, right? Are there pre-built skills maps that people can use and deploy? If so, what are the pros and cons of using that? And I think that we were getting to that like a little bit, but I do want to dive into that, because I think that's a piece of clarity that I want people to have.
Actually, now process and journey with our customers, to work along their talent experience journey with our platform. We usually start with exactly the topic of the discussion today, so the skills mapping and the skills intelligence piece of it. We like to say, even if you're not mature on this topic, and if you don't have access to the data you would like to have access to, you can still, we call it cold start. So it's to kickstart the whole process by leveraging the technology and all the available data that you have to structure your first version of your skills framework internally. And that's how it works. We just grab job descriptions, interviews, transcripts, some current job openings in the company, any skills framework coming from the different businesses or managers or geographies. And let's say we put that into the system, and we've got this skills intelligence engine that will analyze the whole data here and structure a first version of your framework. And that would be the first version of it, with no crowdsourced information. So I would say it's a 20% good and sufficient. And you'll then launch the process of crowdsourcing the data and enrich that with bottom-up data also, and you will be good in the end. So you can start, even if you're not mature, by leveraging technology to grab the information, to structure it, even if it's not that complete, and then go to the crowdsourcing phase in phase 2. And we do that with a major oil and gas company, actually in the US, and they globally are very good in skills management. They have a strategy, and they've been I think skills first company for decades. And but still they wanted to have more tech to deal with that. So it was very human and manual. And the tech was first grab the data we have and structure this skills framework that makes sense for us as an oil and gas company in 20 or 30 different countries. And second, go for the crowdsource approach. And the crowdsource approach bring a lot of data and a lot of value also. So it's the combination of two that makes sense in the end.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, because I think what I'm taking like away is that, there's no one ideal ultimate skills model or skills map that works for every organization, which is, I think, what is, a lot of times what's being pushed. Hey, like, we have a skills map, you can map all your skills here, right? Right, which I think ultimately why, because I've been a part of those processes, but also ultimately why those either have less impact or like, I don't want to say 10 like the film, but let's say less impact is that, like, the leadership, the people who are in like the business know that there's a disconnect between this cookie cutter template and what's actually happening. So they like just use it less and less and less and less. And then after a couple of years, let's do the skill mapping exercise again.
I think the skills technology you bring in your company should be multi-layered.
Okay,
it has
tell me
to,
more.
I think it has to be intelligent and agile enough for your employees' engagement. They have to be able to engage and fill in some information and to express themselves the way they want. So it has to work this way for them, just to be engaged. Then it has to be good enough and structured in another way, but dynamically, to match the offer and demand for skills, so that you can curate and personalize the talent experience of any employee with a various set of opportunities in the company, even if it's not structured upfront in your mind, in your systems. So that's the second layer. The skills technology and the skill engine has to be good for the second layer also, to match offer and demand. And then you have the third level, the third layer, which is the decision-making layer. And if you don't have the two first layers, the top decision layer won't be that top, because it will be the one you were just describing. It's coming from nowhere. It's like, it's global, and so it might be good to have some board talks and say, okay, we are here and we should be there, but actually it won't be the good reflection of what's your particular workforce today, and how you could transform and engage with this workforce in the future.
Yeah, very, very cool. Like, I really like this, because like, we're getting at not just the technology, but the philosophy of why and how good skill mapping works, and why it really does enable strategic workforce planning in a realistic way, not in a, hey, like, how many people do we need, kind of way, right? So that's cool. I mean, I would love to, dive into 365 Talent here. Your baby, like the company that you've built. So for our folks who are unfamiliar, if you don't mind sharing with us, what is 365 Talents? Who are those kind of primary customers? And in the previous conversation, you talked about this concept of a talent experience platform, and I think that's what 365 is. Can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. First, I like to share our mission. We are on a mission, and what we want to do is help HR leaders in global enterprise have a fast and sustainable and positive impact on their employees' career and on their business. That being said, we believe, and that was the whole topic of our discussion, that if you want to be at this level of impact, and to have this impact in a very agile and fast way and sustainable way, you need to invest on only one thing. It's your talent experience. And that's why we are a talent experience platform. And actually what we bring is the missing piece of all your talent management ecosystem in your company. You may have a talent management suite, and performance management and learning management maybe, and recruitment management solutions, either best of breed or all in one. but you miss the capability to match in real time all these different opportunities and the actual profile and very rich profiles of your employees' capabilities and different traits and interest and so on. So that's the talent experience, is being able to create and to personalize all the different sets of opportunities you want to provide to your employees so that they get engaged. And we believe there is a positive impact of that also, is that when you get your employees engaged in a good talent experience, because it's personalized with no barriers, no silos, then you generate some engagement, and engagement brings data, and data brings some insights and strategic insights. So that's the whole multi-layer stuff we described earlier. You start from the experience, and you can have a lot of insights and share and understand what's going on in your workforce. So that's the talent experience. And usually this platform we offer today to 30 large enterprise customers in 60 different countries. We've got 200,000 users on the platform. It helps HR leaders discover and map all their employees and skills and current workforce. It helps them mobilize their workforce, so matching offer and demand for skills in real time for the short term, the long term, and the midterm. And it helps them anticipate the transformation of their workforce and to anticipate the way they can engage and work along their employees to go along this transformation. Because their business is transforming, their jobs are transforming, and you have to get your people engaged in this transformation process. Otherwise, they just leave. And that's the whole question of Great Resignation we introduced earlier. And so that's for the use cases. And we work with consulting, bank, insurance companies, energy, utilities company. We mentioned a global oil and gas company a few minutes ago. We work with companies in France, where we are from, but in Northern Europe also, in the US also. And we are currently in the acceleration phase in Northern Europe and North America. So it's the work of, we are 50 in the team, we'll be 100 in a couple of months.
Wow.
So that's the acceleration phase I was describing.
Yeah. Exciting times. But, I also think that it's very telling that during COVID and now, let's say, coming out of it, if you can still say that anymore, that this is where organizations are choosing to focus on. I think a big lesson learned throughout COVID was that we need to understand our people more, because for a lot of businesses that, if you don't have 100% robots at your company, you still need people to run, to manage, to do the business. And even if you do have 100% robots, you still need highly technical, specialized talent to run that business. So it all comes down to, do we have the people to do the work that that you need to provide your customers, your clients, your stakeholders? So I think it is no surprise in why 365 Talents is growing here. And I guess just for another example, just like to kind of share, because I get really jazzed about skill mapping and how that can transform a business. Is there another example that you feel like you can share about how 365 Talents has helped an organization really transform their business just by the availability of data? And more specifically, I don't know if there's an example around talent mobility, because that's a topic that's near and dear to me, and how skills can enable that. But any example that you have is appreciated.
Yeah, I can mention SocGen, which is one of the leading European banks, both retail and corporate and investment banking. There are 140,000 employees in the world.
Wow. Wow.
And we started the journey with them when they were at the 101 stage of skills intelligence. It was like, I think it was like 3 years ago. And they say, what we want is skills mapping because we don't know. And it's exactly what we described before. They were in this situation. So we launched the talent platform, the talent experience platform dedicated to skills mapping. And on top of this, we had some features to engage the employees on their current jobs or future jobs, because there were some transformation plans. And then later on, they added some more dynamic matching for their current positions. So internal mobility was taking place on the platform. And then from these, they moved to more integration with the learning space also, and with the projects and the gigs approach that a talent marketplace or a talent experience can provide. So it was the whole journey here. And what they want to achieve in the end also is, one, to have their people engaged, both in corporate investment bank and in retail and all the different agencies they have on their 20 different countries. But two, they want to learn from the data they collect to be better in, preparing their workforce for the future. So they call it to operationalize strategic workforce planning, to make it real. So you engage with the experience, and you have a lot of traction and engagement on your platforms, and then you collect some insights, and you are able to identify what will be the gaps in terms of skills, and how to fill the gap with the current workforce you have. And if you don't have what you need, then you can imagine some external plans also. So that's good example of the journey. It started from 101, and then it's like, I won't say it's the master, but they are very good. Another example is a large player, a global player in environment services.
Okay.
And energy. It's Veolia. They are growing mostly non-organically, because there is a big transformation in the organization, and there is a merge with another very large company called Suez. And so there's a lot of transformation, but they wanted to provide their employee and their talent with a more dynamic experience than their talent management platform and suite could bring and could offer them. So they add on their talent management suite the talent experience platform we provide, so that they engage, get a lot of use cases on skills mapping first, then matching on internal mobility, gigs, project missions, career paths connected to the learning also, and many use cases can be added on top of this. And they know there will be this big transformation project where they will have to invest even more on the talent experience, because you will have two different companies joining forces. So you'll have to be good at identifying what is an engineering skill in A and engineering skill in B, and is it the same? And if it's not, how to organize that and how to engage. And that's where the multi-layer skills intelligence I described is taking place also.
Yeah, that is a great point about how this really, really helps and enables, the M&A process and organization, right, to get that global view. We used to do like a lot of that in my consulting days, and it was always a struggle doing job mapping, placing people, because things are never a one-on-one. But what I wish that we could do at that time was to say, okay, just show us everyone's skills. Like, job mappings are just made up categories that we've made to just, help us, with our jobs. But what really matters is what skills, competencies, what knowledge, like the people have. So I think those are fantastic examples. And it's great to see that it's working for kind of companies across all, like sizes. But I think most especially if you're a large enterprise, it's just hard to aggregate that kind of data. And this helps you with that process here. So thanks so much for that, Loïc.
You're welcome. And not to mention the consulting companies we introduced the talk with, and we've got customers in France, in the Netherlands, and globally in 20 countries. In this particular sector, we work with EY and Very Point, for example. And skills is at the center of what they do. It's their number one business driver. So they are talent first, and they're talent only, I would say. It's all about talent. And so they have to be good at mapping skills, staffing their engagements for customers, and engage their employees in the process so that they engage them in the long run also, because that's a challenging environment and they have to invest on their talent engagement in the long run.
And, I think also, so there's staffing and then there's restaffing, right? Because after that engagement is done, it's like, okay, what's like the next engagement? Who has the best skills? Who has the best talent? So I think that's a perfect overlap of a need and a demand, or supply and demand for that kind of market here. So this has been fun, Loïc. So as we wrap up here, we have a couple of fun questions here to leave folks with. One question is, if I offered you a billboard, not saying I won't, right? But if I offered you a billboard to put a message about skills or talent, or anything like that for people to remember from this podcast, what would be your message on that billboard?
If you want to be a talent first company, and if you want to have impact on your employees' career, you have a need for skill and a need for speed. And you can need for speed and need for skills. And need for speed, it's a gaming.
Yes.
It's a game or driving.
To play it, yes.
And it's funny, in this game, you can add some skills to your cars. You can add some skills and so
customize it.
Yeah, you can customize that. And I like how it sounds, like need for skills and need for speed. It's not just need for skills for 10 years from now, it's need for skills now. The current situation is now. So I like this, need for skills, need for speed.
Yeah. Very, very cool. And, as if there are people who are trying to find more resources to, skill themselves up or on the topic of skills, what have been some resources that have helped you grow and learn more about this topic just in general?
I won't be that original, because I said there are lots of surveys and studies, and we mentioned a few of them. They are very good. It's very good material usually, but usually pretty much saying all the same and sharing all the same figures. So that's good, because once you repeat something, then it gets in your mind. So the big consultancy companies, HR, HR analysts always share very valuable insight. But I would suggest the most valuable insight I got are coming from my random conversations with my customers, at different stages of their skills intelligence and talent experience journey. And the 101 has particular challenges. The master has other challenges. And I like challenges, so I like to. And
I think that's something that I do want people to take away, that in your skills mapping journey, understand it is a journey, right? There's an ideal perhaps for your organization, but just like with kind of any like data project or analytics endeavor, which I kind of group this in, it through iteration you get better and better and better, but you have to start, right? Exactly. And I think that's something that really hit me and resonated. Okay, and then like last one, what's your favorite productivity hack or tip for being able to get things done here? That's always fun to hear how people work. So Loïc.
I'm a heavy user of Google Tasks.
Google Tasks. The app within Google Gmail here.
Exactly.
Oh, tell me more.
Actually, it's nothing more than your to-do lists on a paper with a pencil. And there's a lot of fancy features on it, like you can organize categories and make some time. I don't use that. I just use
The straight list.
Yeah, it's a straight list, and I just put a title to each of my notes and my tasks. And usually I try to, you can reorganize your task, and you have the urgent and you have the important ones, and you can just structure that. And I like to do something as a manager also, is when I think of something I want to share with a member of my team, I use task also, but I just put the name of my teammate, and I say, okay, let's say Julie. I want to talk to Julie about this, and I won't ask Julie right now. I won't interrupt Julie in what she's doing. I won't do that, even if we are all on Slack and so on. I won't do that. I will just put Julie and the topic, and I'll wait patiently for the next one-to-one I have with Julie, and then I have all the list of the different topics I want to check.
Nice.
So I think in the world we are in, where you are always interrupted by many things, that's the little piece of mindfulness I want to bring to Julie and to the whole other team on. Don't interrupt them always with a new idea or a new concept or new stuff to do. Right? Just take time and preserve other people and other team members' time also.
Very, very cool. Very cool. I like that because, the Google Tasks, like you said, it can be very, very basic. So, there's not a lot of distractions. And the other tip there is also to help other people get less distracted by holding, that cool link or something like that you want to send them for that structured time, so that you're not pulling them out of what they're doing. Exactly. So that's great stuff here. So, Loïc, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for gracing us on the show. Where can people learn more about you and 365 Talents, and how can they reach you?
That would be kind of basic, but a lot of information is available on our website for sure, and everyone can reach me at loic.michel@365talents.com on my email for sure. I'm kind of responsive on LinkedIn also, not a Twitter guy, even if I've got an account and a profile.
No worries.
But LinkedIn or email are definitely the best way to engage.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Loïc, for being here. Again, we've been talking about how to effectively skills map here, and for strategic workforce planning, and why you're probably doing it wrong. And hopefully, through this podcast here today, you learned some cool tips about how you can engage and do it the right way. And if you need, that kind of support and that technology and that skills intelligence engine that 365 Talents does so well, feel free to reach out to them. Loïc, thanks so much for being on the show, man.
Thank you very much, Vic. Thanks, everyone. Bye.